Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, this stamp here, what can I say? Actually, I blame the other two stamps. These two on the left and the right hand side of the screen. These are all Andy Skinner designed stamps, and I purchased the two on the left and the right and have been happily making cards with them ever since. I do have videos on this channel not too long back of me using them. And then he recently released these, I think there are 6 maybe in the set or in the release, and this is the Botology collection, and I could not resist these better together. Now these two gorgeous little robots, they come on a red rubber stamp. He has changed to all red rubber instead of grey rubber, so you get a gorgeous impression. Now you could just use these on the back of an acrylic block, but just because I wasn't sure at this point, I'm going to use a stamping platform because I knew I wanted this to be a square card. So I'm going to put in a larger sheet of cardstock than I would usually work with, just because at this point I wasn't 100% sure. But with this background here, this is the Altenew sticky grid, and you know, you can see that there is a portrait 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card there, and a landscape one. Now in the center of those, it makes a perfect square, of course, so I can center this stamp beautifully in the middle of there, and then I will center my piece of paper that I'm going to stamp on that background grid as well. And today I'm going to be using the mixed media paper pad. This is from scrapbook.com. This was actually one of their freebies. They have a lot of freebies. Often there are 3 or 4 that you can add all of them to your cart. You don't have to choose one, which is something that I love. You get all of them. And this was one of their freebies, and I've been using it ever since I got it, and I quite like it. In fact, I would like it enough that I would probably purchase it next time as well. It is very heavyweight. I think it's 400 GSM. Yeah, I've just checked. It is. So it is very heavyweight, and it is going to hold up to all of the liquids and things. So I'm going to stamp this down. It actually stamped beautifully the first time, but I'll pop a second layer on, and that darkens it just a little bit. And I want to go with these gorgeous robots, sort of rusty-ish, but with some colour. And I wouldn't say that colouring in is my forte at all, but I love how these robots turned out. It is not something I am confident in, colouring in images, but for these gorgeous little robots, I am just absolutely in love. And I will say, spoiler, there is more videos coming with these two little guys, and finding out ways that I can separate them as well and use them individually, use them together. They are just so gorgeous. And so I'm going to use some inks, some dye inks in this case. I'm using the Gina K Ocean Mist. Really, I wanted a turquoisey kind of color because I want to do some rusty type colors. So that sort of browns and reds, and I wanted something that would contrast really nicely with that. So hence the turquoise. And I have sprayed down my entire image. I did heat set it because I stamped it in the VersaFine Onyx Black. I put some clear embossing powder, and then I heat set that and melted it. So I know that this has created a little border where that blue is not going to flow into the image when I have sprayed water all over the entire image. Then I'm going to take some warm cocoa ink. Again, these are just dye inks, and so you could use anything. You can use you could use watercolors, you could use watercolor pencils, you could use alcohol markers, you can use inks, you can use anything. Honestly, anything to color these. I'm just using what I had, and I'm going to use the water movement to my advantage. So mixing these together, I've got quite a lot of water going on, and I just keep spraying because that is part of the reason why I wanted to use this particular paper, because it is so heavyweight and it can really hold up to all of these things. So I'm going to, once I get something that I kind of like, I'm going to heat set it or dry it just a little bit so it stops some of the movement, or if I feel like the page is getting a little bit wet, I do want that blue and the brown to sort of mix. Now, don't worry about the very outside edge because I will be die cutting this out, but I'm focusing sort of on that brown border that I've created and in from there. So making sure that they mix just a little bit, just tutoing around, and then I have the heat gun in my other hand if I find a spot that I like. Because of the heat embossing that I have done, that is why none of the colour is getting onto the actual robots, which is great. And if I do get a little bit of colour, I can quickly swipe it away. Once I have dried the image, I'm actually coming in with another layer of the same blue, the same ocean mist, and I'm just coming in really tightly around the robots just so it sort of highlights them and those little cans, the two little cans that are on the ground too. This one is called Better Together. Now there are absolutely, as I said, I think there's 6 in this release, and I wasn't intending on purchasing any because I was really enjoying the previous 2 that I had, but that didn't work. I did get just this one though, although the others are gorgeous, and I will link some down below if you'd like to check them out too. I have some Spiced Marmalade Distress Spritz here, and I really just want this for the sort of metallic-y mica, the shimmer effect probably. So I'm going to add some of this all over. I'm also going to use a couple of those brown inks from Gina, the dye inks. And then I just add a sort of light layer all over the robots. And then I'm going to come in the left-hand side and the right-hand side of their faces and bodies and just dab that ink down. Now it is going to spread naturally with the water, and there's quite a bit of water on here at this point, so if you want to, you can have a little paper towel beside you to dab up anything that goes further than you want it to. But truly, I just dip my brush in the ink and then I dab it down whenever I see that I want to add a bit more color, and if I don't like it, I just dab it up with the paper towel and do it all over again. You can always add more water. This does mean that you can adjust it. You can keep adding color and depth. The more layers that you come in and add, if you let it dry, you can come back to it again. So just keep adding in a little bit. Then I couldn't help but add a few little splatters because I had some of that ink left there on my page. And I think at the moment, it kind of looks a little bit interesting, but wait till we die cut this out. I love this card. Now it is a bit shimmery because of the spritz, but you really can't see it that well. At the moment. Now I'm taking this all and create gorgeous. Now this is, I think, made for A7 cards or so, because this is bigger than my regular A2, but I wanted a square card, and obviously this is a rectangle, so I'm just going to run this through twice. I love the outside border frame of these, and I'm sure that these die sets come in squares as well. In fact, I'm almost positive that they do. But, we have to make choices with budget, and I chose to get the rectangle ones, but that is okay because we can make this into a square just fine. So I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine, and once I've done that, you can see it's got the rectangle. All I do is shift it up, and then I only do some partial die cutting where I just have only the bottom portion, the very, very bottom, like almost that bottom line only. I just run that through my die cutting machine, and you can see here that now I have a pretty good looking square. You absolutely could measure this out if you wanted to, if you weren't sure about, making a proper square. I eyeballed it and it ended up being okay. Pop out all those little extra bits and pieces from around the border, and at the moment you can mediumly see them, but I think I wanted a little bit more brown around the edge. I wanted a little bit more contrast to match the bodies of the robots, and so I'm just going to come in with a finger dauber. I didn't even bother to re-ink this or get out an ink pad. I was just using what was left on the finger dauber just to darken up those edges a tiny little bit, particularly where that die cutting is, so it's just a little bit more well defined. And so I'm also going to add in a couple of matting layers to this one with that gorgeous turquoisey color as a nice contrast there. And I'm also going to have a brown layer. So this is the Warm Cocoa from Gina, I think. And anyway, it goes on quite dark and it's going to dry within 30 seconds or so. You can see that it dries back a little bit more. So it does go on a little bit dark and uneven, but it's going to dry back beautifully, sort of before your eyes really. And then I decided to do another one. This is the Ocean Mist, the same color that I used in the background of the robots. Again, it goes on kind of dark, particularly when I'm doing it direct to paper. Not so bad when you're ink blending, that's for sure, but I have re-inked these recently, so they're very juicy, and so we're putting down a lot of ink when I go direct to paper. And then I changed my mind. I actually did want the little sentiment here, so it comes with this little sentiment that says better together, and I was going to pop it somewhere else and then pop it like cut it out and pop it on top there, but actually I decided it looked just gorgeous. There was enough space that I could fit it in down the bottom. Now this is how I test these with the red rubber stamps. I get a piece of acetate, always, and I know it's hard to see, but there is a little piece of acetate down the bottom. I put the stamp where I think I want it to go, and then I stamp it with the same VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Make sure that it looks like it's in the right place, then take away the acetate and stamp the sentiment so I know it's exactly where I want it to go. And these gorgeous little red rubber stamps, they do stamp beautifully. Even that fine, dainty text is crisp. Then I'm just going to use some art glitter glue, putting together all my layers on my square card. I think this ended up being 5 by 5 inches, so not huge. And of course, you don't need to make a square at all. You can make it a rectangle or even a gorgeous oval. I was thinking I might do around these two little robots next time, but you'll have to wait and see. And yeah, this was a really fun card to put together. I could not resist these gorgeous little robots. And as I said, the two previous ones, I think they were called Nowhere to Go But Up and Oh, the Places You Will Go. Just so sweet, absolutely beautiful, and they make really quick cards to put together too, particularly the previous ones I showed, because you can really just stamp on top of all those scrap backgrounds, all of those inky backgrounds that you're just not sure what to do with. You can stamp them in the silhouette style and you are absolutely good to go. This one here, of course, you can use a little bit of shading, or you could do all colouring outside of it. You could keep the robots neutral, all sorts of things. But as you saw today, not tricky at all, even something I can do, so definitely you are able to do it. I did add a little bit of foam tape in this layer here, just the 1mm scrapbook.com tape, which is 1 inch wide. So it's got a little bit of dimension, but not too much at all. And then that is the card finished for today. I love these gorgeous little robots, and this card definitely made me happy. Thank you so much for joining me. I so appreciate you being here, and let me know in the comment section what you think of these guys. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.